Thank you for joining us. It's the webinar for introducing Hydro GeoAnalyst version 8. First, a little recap of what Hydro GeoAnalyst is and how you use it. It's software to help you manage environmental data. It's based on a SQL database backend and relational tables, and HGA provides you with a series of various modules to interact with that data. And those modules are flavored in 3 different categories. The first is data management. There's a series of tools that help you manage your data, copy, query, and create lists to make sure your data quality is in good shape. There's also lots of tools to import your data and export it. There's also analysis and interpretation tools that allow you to analyze well-boring soil profiles, create 3D scenes, 2D maps, cross-sections, and then also analyze your aquatic and pumping test data. And then there are collaboration tools that allow you to share your data with a variety of different stakeholders. So the new features in version 8, we're excited to introduce a new user management module, an online sharing tool that's been extended, as well as the event planner and well profile tools. So we've added some new features to those modules. And then we also have some other usability features that we'll highlight in this webinar. So the first module that we'll talk about today is the user management module. And what this allows you to do is create and modify users with various access levels to the data. The great feature about this is that you don't need to understand the SQL Server or interact with it. The module does this all for you. It allows you to simply add, remove, or edit users with 3 different user access levels. And we'll show you what that looks like in HGA. So if we have a demo project open, I've created 3 different users, each with a different role. The administrator role provides you with full access to the database for the project. The standard user provides you with read and write access, but you can't modify any tables or add or modify any users. And the most restrictive user type is the reader type, which allows you to read the data but not make any changes at all. So what you can do is open the Add User dialog and either use Windows credentials or SQL Server credentials, and you can create a new password if the login does not exist, and those credentials have to conform with the password policy that's set by Microsoft, and the specifications for that are on the Microsoft website. The 3 different user roles again are administrator, standard user, and read-only user. You can also delete a user, and that just deletes the highlighted row. And then you can also edit the selected user. So if we have an admin, you can modify the user by selecting which one of the 3 user roles are defined. The next module that we've made changes to is the online sharing module, which allows you to publish select data from your project to either a custom web server or the Waterloo web server, or to a local staging folder on your hard drive or network drive. This provides a static data dump of tables, charts, and maps, and you're now allowed to set up multiple configurations so you can create different websites for different stakeholders. So that's available here in the project tree, or accessible also in the modules menu. So let's open up an existing module. Here's an example online sharing configuration. The first tab allows you to input some very simple project data, the title of your project, a description of the website, what kind of data you're sharing, and then also some basic contact information and branding. The next tab allows you to share various queries from within your project. You can select any queries that you've created, whether they be station tables or direct queries. You can also set up charts. There's a structure associated with that. You can organize each of your charts by major group. We'll go through the example of water levels. if you can select one of your queries to use, in this case we've done the water levels, and you can choose a chart type, select an x-axis, which is usually going to be your date, and then your source field will be what the data that you're going to be plotting, and then how it's grouped. Typically this is done by station. Last but not least, you have the ability to share maps. So you can select one of your 2D maps from the map module and then select a data layer to publish. If you select one of the wells groups, then you're able to also publish water level data. So if we select publish, then you have three options: the custom web server. So this is a web server that your organization might have access to. It will transfer the files via FTP and use the credentials that you supply and a port. You can also use an existing local folder or publish to our web server as a demo. A note about the local file folder: your browsers typically don't support browsing from a local file folder, so they may not show up correctly. There's a few tools that you can use to get around this, or you can use the Waterloo web server as a demo. So we'll go ahead and publish this configuration. Show you what that looks like in Chrome. Here's a demonstration of how that would look. You've got your landing page with the title, the description, and the contact information. You can click over to the Queries tab, and you'll notice there's a set of tables that can be filtered. So if we want to find well 09, then that data becomes highlighted. You can also click on one of the charts. So we have the time series chart with values that get highlighted per location. And last but not least, the maps. A preview of the stations that you have, and then you can click on them to highlight one or more locations and then show the water levels. A quick note as well, that the data that's published to the website is a static update of your project data. So there's also the publication date. The next module that we'll talk about is the event planner, which allows you to share, set up and share sampling events and organize them so you can share these with your team members. One of the new features is that you can create ICS files that are created in the back end. Those get saved to Outlook. So an ICS is a calendar event. So you can work with Microsoft to publish those tasks directly to your calendar and then share them with your teammates, and we'll do a demonstration of that. You'll also be able to push your scheduled sampling events to an EDD template directly and then share those with your field team or labs, and then that also allows you to publish the data to a mobile EDD. So if we go over to the event planner, if we look at the event plan wizard, we can open up an existing event or create a new one. I'll just go to the one I created earlier today. The first tab here allows you to enter in some metadata about the event itself. So who's going to the field, what labs you're going to be using, and then who might be approving your plan, and then some comments about the plan itself. So then you can select your locations that need to be sampled. You can grab any of your station groups. In this case, we're using the monitoring wells. So you can select all and push them over. If you don't like your changes, you can start from scratch and then add them in. The next data to be entered is which analyses you'd like to include. So in this case, we've added in pesticides and organic chemicals. You can grab any of the lists in your group editor. And then we also have QA/QC samples. A new feature on this part of the event planning wizard is the ability to manage your programmatic ratios between QA/QC samples and parent samples. So if you have a programmatic requirement for, say, 10 duplicates for every parent sample, you can enter in 10:1 in this ratio right here for each different QA/QC sample type. And then what this will do is if you, we'll sort by sample type, maybe we'll delete a few samples. And if you don't have enough samples to meet those requirements, you can click the Apply Ratios button, and then it'll create the correct number of samples so that you meet your basic requirements for the correct number of duplicates to parent samples. And we'll fill those out and proceed to the next step. You can also collect additional data. So you can look throughout your table to find additional data. Typical information includes your station metadata, groundwater levels. We'll expand this just a little bit. Field measurements and parameter samples. So this would include your sample ID, date, time, and lab that it's going to. And you can expand any of these lists to include whichever data you'd like to collect. You can also create checklists to remind yourself to bring equipment, calibrate equipment, or rent equipment, or coordinate site access. And then those tasks can all be scheduled. So we can create tasks. And each task you can associate with a particular step within the event, so that you can add that directly to the task and to your calendar reminders. So we'll typically include the event metadata, the timing of it, and the personnel, and then whichever other steps, subsequent steps may apply. So if you're doing, say, a bottle order from your lab, you may include the parameters, QA/QC samples, and your stations. So then this will create an appointment within the event planner in HGA. You can modify it. So we'll say bottle order. Location would be, let's say, XYZ lab. And then the date that you want to have that occur. So let's say we want to do it on the week of December 3rd, and then add a reminder. So then all the information that we've tagged onto that is present, and we have for each station any QA/QC samples, the list of parameters that need to be analyzed, and then any additional data that we want to collect. So if you hit save and close, then it will prompt you if you want to save this event to your personal calendar. If you click yes, then what we'll end up with then is a Outlook reminder that has all the information embedded within it. If you want to add teammates who may be responsible for carrying out those tasks, you can invite them as well, and then send that invitation. So this allows you to organize your sampling events and streamline that process. And last but not least, you can publish the event. So you can save the plan. One thing that you can do that's very handy is the ability to create an EDD template. So what this then allows you to do is create this template. You can save it and share it with your labs. This allows you to use the quick checker much quicker. So we'll save that. You can also, once you've saved it, publish a mobile EDD. So this allows you to share the mobile EDD with your field team, and they can use mobile devices then to collect the data that you're requesting. And then any new tasks will be created here. Okay, changes to the well profile. We've added the ability to export well profiles to PowerPoint and have those well profiles span multiple pages based on a common scale. And we'll do a demonstration of that. We have a well profile template, in this case the lithology report, that has all of our data columns that we want. If you specify a non-auto tick and then specify consistent tick interval for both the elevations and the depths, then what you can do is print this to PowerPoint, specify a file name, and if we select the station group template, and then I've picked the station group variable depth stations just to highlight this, and then you can specify how many meters or feet, depending on your project setup, you want per page for each well profile. And then it'll automatically figure out how many pages it needs per well and then split up the report based on that. So I'll print that. And so you see the page increments are from 0 to 50, 50 to 100. That particular boring was exactly 100 meters, but on the subsequent one, you'll note that it terminates at 120. And so each one of the wells is now spanned across a consistent depth interval, so your reports are more consistent and comparable from page to page. So a list of other improvements that we've added to HGA 8.0. In terms of the quick checker, you can run the quick checker now via command prompt. So if you go to Explorer and then open up a command prompt to where the quick checker executable is sitting, you can create a batch file then that would run the quick checker against various EDDs. So that way, if you're using multiple templates and you want to create a batch file for that, you can automate the process and run through that a little bit quicker. You can also copy paste within the tables that show up inside the quick checker now. So if you have to validate a bunch of different values, you're able to do that a little bit faster. You can also, using the EDD import process, do coordinate conversions instead of having to use the standard data import. So this speeds up the process as well. And then you can also import EDDs that include images. This is some preparatory work for a mobile application that we're working on that will be available for Android, iOS, and Windows mobile devices. We'll be releasing that sometime next year. Last but definitely not least, there's now the ability to add external application launchers onto the main toolbar of HGA. And this has some exciting implications that we'll go over. And the main one that I'll highlight is that you can link these applications. Here's the process for doing it. So if you go to the File and Hydro GeoAnalyst settings, you can link both Aquachem and Aquifer Test, our other programs, directly to HGA so that they show up and you can launch them directly there. But one of the nice external programs that works really well with HGA is a Microsoft tool called Power BI. And the way you would add a link there is to find the executable on your hard drive and then link it. You can create a name for it and then have it either run as an admin or not, and then also show up on your main toolbar. If there's any switches or command prompts that you need to run the executable correctly, then you can add those here. And then the programs will show up in your toolbar. So in terms of Power BI, you can link your data inside Power BI using this Get Data tool. And SQL databases are supported, so you would just type in your server name, and if you're running local DB, you can actually type that in as well. Otherwise, you do // and then your server address, and then the database name. You can import the data either as a direct query, which is a live connection, or import the data. The import is, once you've completed it, works with the data much faster and is recommended if you're testing the environment out to set up profiles. And then you supply some credentials, and then you pick whichever tables or views are available inside your project. And then what this allows you to do is create a dashboard, and I'll give you a quick little demo of a very simple mock-up I created this morning. So what this allows you to do is query your data. You can create any number of different graphs or charts including simple maps. And then each one of these on the same tab is linked one to the other. So if you have a table of all your different monitoring wells, you can select one. It'll zoom on the map directly to it and then provide some information about it from one of the charts. So all these information sources are linked. If you unselect, you can also select, say, a group of wells and then have their results show up. And then the table is filtered. So there's some pretty neat, powerful tools there. They're simple and easy to use. So this has some applications for sharing your data a little bit more robustly with a different variety of stakeholders. And then Power BI allows you to publish that data to websites or mobile applications depending on your organization's agreement or service level with Microsoft. But it is available in many larger organizations. That more or less concludes the high-level demo of the new features in HGA. Thank you everyone for your time. I appreciate you spending the last half hour with me. Look forward to hearing from you if you have any questions, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you.